Okay. Good morning, students. This is Spanish 1, Unit 27, Class 12, and this is your midterm review session. Can you believe it? You're halfway through the second semester of your first year of Spanish. I hear some voices out there. Your main focus of this lesson, if you're watching on video or if you're here with me, is to review the information, highlighted information that you've studied so far with us, and get an idea of what's going to be on that midterm exam. I need you to study hard at home so you can do well. ¿Quieren hablar español, no? All right, this is the week 12 calendar that you see up here. You'll notice that I have 2 weeks up here, not just one, so that you can see, here we are today on the 9th, but next week your testing window is actually Wednesday and Friday. So we'll have another live session here in between. But you should begin studying tomorrow, and the PowerSpeak calendar has time for you to focus on studying. So take advantage of that time. Howdy. Okay. All right. Essential question number 12 is, after going over this midterm review session, what areas of study do you need to go back and review to prepare for the midterm? Now, I want you, if you're here live, to think about that. And I want you, if you're viewing this, to turn that into me on Friday for your 10 points. There are 4 sections of the midterm exam. There's vocabulary and grammar. Uh-oh. I lost the, okay, thank you. There is the vocabulary and grammar section, which we'll dedicate most of the class to studying today. There's the listening section, the speaking and writing section, and the reading section. So you'll have to demonstrate your progress in those 4 areas. All right, so let's begin with vocabulary and grammar. And the way we're going to do it is just go through some samples of the types of questions that you'll see. You'll notice you have a multiple choice or a true-false, and there's instructions for each question. Some of them are similar and some of them are different. So be sure to read the instructions as well as the item. Okay, so the first one is, el enfermero trata de cuidar a los niños bien. So they're asking what the underlined word means. Enfermero. Anyone out there want to give me a volunteer? Yes. You say it's C, nurse. Okay. Yes? Okay. Enfermo, the root word enfer is to be sick. So enfermo means that someone is sick or a sick person. However, enfermero with an O at the end in this case means doctor. Okay, so with enfermera, it would be the nurse. Next. Here's another missing verb that you can use a word in the sentence to give you a clue for. Un escritor algo mucho. ¿Qué hace un escritor? A, escribe. B, canta. C, deja de. Or D, baila. Which would it be? Okay. The root word of escritor, escribir, okay, would indicate that it would be the first one. A writer writes. Do you see how you can match the roots? in those two to tell which one would be the correct answer. I'm going to go highlight that for you if I can figure out how to do it. Here we go. Choose the best answer. Okay, here's Spanish and English. If I'm very good with numbers, which career should I choose? Agricultor, artista, contador, or cantante? Again, we're using the root word as a clue. What's the word that means to count? Okay. Yes, contar is to count. So contador is an accountant, someone who would be good with numbers. Next, choose the best Spanish equivalent to the phrase. Which is the best way to say it? He is the first dentist to work here. What's your name? Mark. Let's read them. The first, es el primero dentista a trabajar aquí. B, es el primer dentista en trabajar aquí. Es el primero dentista trabajar aquí. And I'm going to get rid of this. This one?
The gray one right there. You get the gray.
Right there.
Yeah, you can move it around.
Oh, it's a drag bar, thank you.
Yeah.
G, es el dentista primero trabajar aquí. Which one is it? How many people say A? B? C? D? Very good. Okay, next. Choose the best Spanish equivalent to the phrase. B. El profesor termina su fourth año de estudios. Which word means fourth? Uno, dos, tres, cuatro. Now, what's happening with me? Did I skip one? No. Okay. La décima está después de la novena. Okay. So, después, after, la décima. Which word here means tenth? The 10th is after the 9th. Is that correct? La décima está después de la novena. It's true. No, yes, it's true. Okay, this is a statement, and you're to decide whether the sentence is true or not. Okay. Yeah, in Spanish, is this true? The 10th is after the 9th. Yes, the 10th is after the 9th. Yeah. Okay, so is the Spanish grammar correct? Yes. 12. What does the underlined word mean in the following sentence? Tú necesitas probarte estos zapatos antes de comprarlos. Muy bien. Shoes. Zapatos son shoes. Alrighty, choose the best answer. Welcome, Shailene. Which of the following would you wear? Gosh, guys. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. I'm cutting in and out. But thank you for your attention, guys. I'm sorry about the problems. Which of the following would you wear on your head? El cinturón, the belt. Los zapatos, the shoes. La gorra, the cap or hat. Los pantalones cortos, the shorts. All right, next. Fill in the blank with a Spanish word that best completes the sentence. Michael Jordan lleva una talla. Michael Jordan wears a size grande. Pequeña, small. Mediana, medium. Vieja is old, so it's grande. Hey. But it's Michael Jordan, and he's a famous basketball player. That's why they used him for an example, because most people would recognize his name, and he's huge. He's like 7 feet and a half. All right, so you can see that many of the words so far are vocabulary, just seeing if you understand and remember the vocabulary terms, but in the context of a sentence. So that's practicing your grammar as well. Let's go on to 15. We're probably about halfway through. If you think you know these, why don't you go ahead on the PowerPoint handout there and see if you can mark the ones correct. And then when we get to them, you can do sort of a check and see how you would have done. A good way to use this presentation is as a self-assessment. If you're going through and you're thinking, no problem, you're getting them all right, awesome, then you know you're well prepared. If there's an area that you're not really solid on, that's where you're going to go and study. So 15, choose the best word to complete the phrase. I ask for un vestido nuevo. So which form do we use when we want to ask for something? Preguntar or pedir? Okay. This was a subject. I believe it was lesson 5, I'm not sure, but it distinguishes between preguntar and pedir. So preguntar is to ask, for example, to ask backwards. So I'm going to ask you to say your multiplication table. I could say 3 por 5 son. Okay, voy a preguntar las respuestas de estos problemas en español. I'm asking for facts. But when I want to ask for something like, will you give me something, that's going to be pedir. So pido, number D, would be the correct answer. It's the verb pedir in the first person because it's I ask. 16. Choose the best Spanish equivalent to this phrase. They know the old salesman. Okay. In this one, they're testing you to see if you know the correct use of conocer or saber. Just like preguntar and pedir, there's appropriate times to use each of these. I'm going to need to ask you guys to move to a different table if you don't stop talking. Yes?
So, what if saber means like don't you know? You can say that.
Well, that's the third person singular, which could be you plural in the formal, or it could be them. So it's not a conjugation problem. It's not which person. Some of these questions will be, are you matching the person with the correct conjugation of the verb? But on this one, they're trying to see if you know the difference between, let's see, conocer and saber. See, they're both conjugated in the third person. Saber means to know facts, and conocer is to be acquainted with somebody or something. So in this case, A would be the correct one. Conocen. Al vendedor viejo. 17. Choose the best response. ¿Sabes dónde está la tienda nueva? Do you know where the new store is? And so what's the correct response? ¿Sabes dónde está? ¿Yo sé algo? Sí. ¿Yo la sabo? No. Yo no sé. Di. No sabo dónde está. Do I have any responses out there? What's your guess?
I think that it's
Okay. Saber, this verb here, is it has an irregular conjugation, and that's what they're trying to see if you know. When you conjugate saber, instead of saying sabo, sabe, sabe, sabemos, sabéis, saben, the first person singular is se. So it's sí, no, yo no sé. Whenever you're going to say I don't know, you're going to say no sé. Because se is the first person instead of sabo. It's irregular. It's an irregular verb.
even when you're using yo, which we're giving problem, the AR and SO.
That's the regular conjugation for saber, but saber is not a regular verb. It's an irregular verb. It's going to be, its spellings are different.
Right here. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
18, slide 18. What does the underlined word mean in the following sentence? How are you guys doing back there? Are you with me? Are you with me back there? Me gusta más mirar la televisión que estudiar en el escritorio. Yes, escritorio is desk. All right, number 19 is, what does the underlined word mean in the following sentence? Okay, so on these, you can target the underlined word and see if you can find it without having to read the whole sentence, I noticed. Oh, gosh. El dentista dice que es necesario cepillar los dientes a menudo. Cepillar los dientes is brush your teeth. Okay, which Spanish word best completes the following sentence? And this is a test if you understand the vocab for the household words. Pongo la ropa en. Okay, what is ropa? Okay, So then you just have to know what is espejo.
Yes.
That's mirror.
Yes.
Escritorio is desk. And el tocador is the dresser or chest. So you would put the clothing in the dress. All right. Deciding whether the sentence is grammatically correct or incorrect. Now we're going to talk about conjugations and word placement, that kind of thing. On your test is going to be the comparison forms. And this is a test to see if you can identify those. Nosotros comemos tanto en el comedor como en la cocina. Okay, tanto goes with como. And that's what they're trying to see if we recognize. When you're comparing some words, go with que, and some words go with como. Okay? Tan goes with como, and tanto goes with como. So in this example, nosotros comemos tanto en el comedor como en la cocina. We eat as often in the dining room as we do in the kitchen.
Did you also look at nosotros and look at
Comemos? Yeah. Yeah, the error could be in that. They're not telling you what part of the sentence to look at. I'm just telling you that that was the focus here. But it could as easily be the focus of the subject and the verb.
So it really depends on the focus.
Right. And you may or may not know that by the sentence, so you have to just kind of study the sentence and look at it. Is the subject and verb correct? Or is it a vocabulary word, or is it an expression? So if you go over all the things you studied in the first part of the semester, you'll begin to recognize, oh, this question is about this question is about that. And that'll help you to feel confident in your answer. Okay, here's another grammatically correct or incorrect. Mi padre es mayor que mi madre. Are you signed in? Okay. Okay, thank you. In this case, this is a follow-up of the last slide where we were talking about comparison terms, and this is the other comparison term. Instead of tan and tanto go with como, in this case, más or mayor or peor go with que. So this is correct. Mi padre es mayor que mi madre. My father is older than my mom. So certain terms are going to go with que in comparing, and others with como. So you need to know which is which. All right, next.
So in that case, that was correct.
It was correct. Again, did I mark that? I'm sorry, I didn't mark it. Alrighty, the 23rd slide. What does the underlined word mean in the following sentence? Me duele mucho la cabeza. Me duele mucho la cabeza. Underlined word cabeza means head. And this is a common phrase, me duele la cabeza. That means I have a headache. Now we're talking about a concept that you learned this semester changing an adjective to an adverb. Here's the adjective, débil. And which is the correct form of changing débil to an adverb? Okay, there's a certain formula for that. Do you remember what it is? Generally speaking. Okay. All right. In an adjective, you would convert the adjective to its singular feminine form and then add mente at the end. So, débil, you first have to ask, is that masculine or feminine? And in the case of débil, it's both. There's no such word as débila. It's just débil. So, it would be C, débilmente. Correct. Very good. But the next one is also applying that rule. Here's a new word, suave. What would you do to that one? Change it to the feminine form and then add mente. Okay, so suave has an E at the end, so you'd have to change the E to an A and then add mente. So it would be suavemente. Suavemente. Right, what does the underlying word mean in the following sentence? Me acuesto en la cama. Here's another common expression. Acostar. Acostarse means to lie down. So, so it would be I, because it's a reflexive verb. The reflexive pronoun goes to the front of the word. Me is the I form. And then acuesto. So me acuesto is I lie down. Choose the word or phrase that best completes the sentence. Another reflexive term that you'll be familiar with. How would you say cuts his hair? Mi padre cuts his hair. Okay, so the verb is cortar, but he's cutting his own hair, so you make it reflexive. Cortarse is the word you use. Okay, it's mi padre, so it's going to third person singular. So it would be the se form, se corta. And then el pelo. In English, we would say he cuts himself the hair. We don't say it that way. But in Spanish, we don't use possessive pronouns with our body parts. We don't say mis manos, mi pelo. When we're using it this way, we're saying los manos, el pelo. So you have to put the reflexive part into the verb. It's one way to look at it anyway. So the correct answer is se corta el pelo. There's a good lesson presentation on this in your video lesson. So I encourage you to review those. Which number is in the hundreds? Can you recognize the root word for hundred in any of those? Correct. There's that word cien, which means hundred. So 200, 200. B is correct. And fill in the blank with the Spanish word that best completes this sentence. Madrid es una gran. Okay, so if you recognize Madrid, that's the capital of Spain. And is Madrid a teatro, a theater, a ciudad, a city, a lago, a lake, or el árbol? All right. You studied the personal A, and so there will be some items covering that on your test. What are the rules for the personal A? When do you use it? Short review on that. Okay. When the object of a verb is a person that you know individually, that you know, then you add an A before you name that object. So, I hear my mom in English. In Spanish, I hear a, my mom. I insert the personal A in before the object when it's a person. That's why it's called the personal A, to help you remember. When it's a familiar person, someone you're personally acquainted with, you're going to need that personal A. So in this case, tú oyes a tu mamá would be correct. The personal A is necessary. On the next one, miramos los leones en el zoológico. We see the lions in the zoo. The lions are a group of animals. I don't know any of them personally, so I don't need the personal A. You would just see, oh my goodness. I'm so sorry on this.
It's going crazy.
It is. I'm not happy. We're getting towards the end, though. I hate to do that. But it's going to make a terrible video for anyone to have to watch. It's going to go on and off. Is it? I'll have to review it and see. Oh, that's great. And the
when they join the session, it's all survey.
awesome.
So they do it on each and every different computer.
Right.
So it's the computer's problem, not the server's problem. If that were to happen to the server, then it would be effective.
Okay, good. Thank you. I'll review that and see what I can do to fix it so it's better next time. All right, that completes the vocabulary and grammar section of the review. And here's a sample of what you can expect on the listening portion. When you click the button, you'll be listening to a short conversation in Spanish, and then you'll have a question to answer with a choice to make for your answer. So the question on this one is, who is the blouse for? And then you have to choose su mamá, su papá, un hermano, or una hermana. Okay, but you have to listen to know the answer. So let me say a sentence that you might hear when to choose the answer. Hola mamá, tengo un regalo para ti. Me gustan mucho los colores de esa blusa. Let me do that again, and then you can answer the question. Hola mamá, tengo un regalo para ti. A mí me gusta mucho los colores de esa blusa. So, who is the blouse for? It would be to Mama, because at the beginning, in English, I said, "Hi, Mom, I have a present for you. I like the colors of this blouse." Yeah, so you have to, the idea is you're listening to something. First, when you get to this on your test, read the question and your choice of answers. And then press the listen button and listen and see if you can understand enough of it so that you could answer a question.
I don't understand it.
Okay.
Because it's so fast.
Well, luckily, since you guys are online, you can press the replay button and listen to it again. It does, and you'll get better at listening. Can I make a suggestion for those of you that don't have a lot of Spanish, that this is your truly your first year in Spanish? it's easier to learn a language well, you're wired to learn languages by listening and speaking. Everybody in the whole world, unless they have a disability, when they're born, they learn a language. And they don't write it or read it first, they speak it first. I have little grandkids, and they speak all over the place, but they don't read and write yet. But when you're learning a second language, oftentimes you learn to read it and write it, and you leave out the speaking part. So that's the part that becomes hard for you, because we're sort of learning it a little bit backwards if you want to look at it that way. So in order to learn to hear and understand the language, you have to practice hearing it. And you have to get used to the new sounds of the language. And pretty soon, you'll start picking it up. It'll come sort of naturally. So what you need to do is expose yourself to the language. I have a suggestion of a pretty painless way to expose yourself to a language. I have, and you may have, a bunch of DVDs, old ones that you've seen a million times, maybe Lion King or Incredibles, or any of those cartoon videos that you've seen. Turn the video on, go to the directory and change it into Spanish, and listen and watch it in Spanish. You already know what the characters are going to say in that video because you've watched it. So what you need to do is practice hearing it, and you'll start slowly recognizing the word. Okay. Okay. We're not finished yet, students. We have a couple more pages. So here's an example of the next type of question on your midterm, and that's a reading sample. So you'll have to read a section, and then they'll measure how well you understood the section by asking a question. You do this in English. You'll read a little paragraph on a test, and then they'll ask you a question about it. That's all this is. The only thing is it's in Spanish. So you need to understand the words, and then you'll be able to answer. So here's the... Okay. This is, if you were to translate this whole thing, I wouldn't go with the translation.
I don't translate the whole thing. I translate like just something.
All right. So let me read it to you and see if you can find the answer. Decide if this question is true or false. Always read the question first, and then be thinking about that as you're reading the topic or the subject. So the question is, true or false, does Saul wants to be a professor? Okay, now here's the conversation. Rosa, Saúl, ¿qué quieres ser en el futuro? Saúl, quiero ser abogado. Me gusta estudiar las clases de ciencias políticas. Rosa, a mí no me gustan esas clases. Prefiero las clases de inglés y español. Saúl, entonces puedes ser maestro de español. Rosa, sí. ¿Qué otra carrera te gustaría estudiar? Saúl, quizás podría ser arquitecto. Me gusta construir cosas y diseñarlas. Rosa, yo podría ser enfermera. Me gusta trabajar con la gente y ayudarla. All right. So what does Saúl say he wants to be?
Lawyer.
Up here, quiero ser abogado, lawyer. And what else does he say he wants to be down here?
Architect.
Arquitecto. So he doesn't say professor. So my answer would be false. Okay. There's also another section on your midterm of writing and speaking. And we are going to take about 30 minutes to do this a sample of this. So if you have your scratch paper, or you can use the back of your PowerPoint study notes, you'll have a writing and you'll have a speaking question, at least one. I'm using a sample, one sample for both, but you would have two separate questions. Here's my sample. Using 4 or 5 sentences, describe the room you are in now. Okay, so here's the requirement. Sentences, 4 or 5. That means subject, verb, object. You can't just put a bunch of words down and get the point. So they want 4 or 5 sentences. So you're going to look around you and you're going to think, what do I know, what objects do I recognize and I know the names of those? Okay, so this is a classroom. Let me give you an example. Well, you know what? I'm going to hold off about 3 minutes and I'm going to have you write down, say this was the written one. Go ahead and write your response. Go ahead and write your response. Write me 4 or 5 sentences describing something that you see around you. The sentences to be basic, you could just say, I see a chalkboard. I see many chairs. There are posters on the wall. Make them simple, but come up with 4 or 5 sentences in writing right now. I'm going to collect these at the end. So give you about, if I can, give you about 3 minutes to do that right now. Yeah, this is Spanish. Okay, so we're still in class. With your class. Okay, I'll bear that in mind, but I was told it was an hour. So I guess your time slot is an hour and your teacher normally ends early. This is a longer lesson though. It has many more points and slides because it is a review.
Usually when there's a long lesson like this, she does it twice. She goes over it twice. Like she does the first part of it and then she goes over the second part of it.
Okay, so, okay, well thank you for telling me that. I didn't know that either. But I'll communicate with her on that. You know, that'd be great with me. I'm good with that. But I'm doing what I thought that she wanted me to do, so. All right, so just another minute. You can come up with a few sentences in Spanish describing the room around you. You guys at home, are you writing? A few sentences? Go ahead and type them in there for me so I can see.
We're using Google Translate because I'm not very good at translating Spanish.
So Bryce, I'm looking for something from you. And James, Charlene. Okay. Can someone raise their hand and read me one sentence? One sentence. Now you've written 4 or 5, right? Anybody? All right. So will you do that for me? Thank you.
You'll say Pizarra Blanca.
Okay. Yo veo una pizarra blanca. Very good. All right. If this was the question where you had to write the answers, you're going to be writing them and submitting them, and I'll grade them that way. If this was the question where you had to speak the answer, you're going to speak those 4 or 5 sentences into the microphone, and I will give you an oral grade. So you're going to have both. So we are practicing right now the oral part, even though you've had a chance to write it ahead of time. So who else can volunteer to read me one of their sentences? I'm taking volunteers, not twisting your own. Anybody? Okay. How about you? Can you tell me what you see around you, one sentence?
Yeah. Spanish.
Yeah.
El cuarto que yo estoy tiene 12 ventanas.
Otra vez, por favor. El 4, ¿eh? El cuarto.
El cuarto que yo estoy tiene 12 ventanas.
2 ventanas. Okay. 12 ventanas. El cuarto en que yo estoy tiene 12 ventanas. Very good. Awesome. Do we want to translate that for them? The room in which I am, the room that I'm in which I am, has 12 windows. Okay. This is the kind of thing I'm looking for. 4 to 5 sentences. All right. All right. So this concludes our PowerPoint presentation. If you're not here in person, please enter your response to Essential Question 12 on 410 in the calendar. And don't forget to study. Please use your teacher's YouTube videos. They're a great source, as well as your lessons. And the essential question for those of you at home. And this is Mrs. Daniel signing off, saying have a great day.